Some well-heeled investors getting early dividends. Let's talk to Reuters correspondent Ernie Schneider. Ernie, from the high end to the low end, Coach to DSW, early dividends going out ahead of the you-know-what.
Ahead of the fiscal cliff, maybe coming at the end of the month. So DSW and Coach both coming out, moving their fourth quarter dividends to the last week in December. Really interesting with DSW, it's going to pay its third and fourth quarter dividends on the same day. So
Merry Christmas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good news for their shareholders right there.
We've seen so many companies do this. Oracle actually also moving up its dividend. We should remind folks, though, really what this means. I mean, right now, the maximum tax rate you're paying on a dividend is 15%. Mm-hmm. If there's no deal on this fiscal cliff, it's taxed like ordinary income, which means if you're at the very high end of the tax bracket, you could be taxed as much as almost 44% on these dividends.
Yes, and these companies' board of directors, they know that. They're hearing from their shareholders that they want that dividend check before we hit January 1st, just in case.
All right, let's see what's happening in the broader market. Speaking of the
fiscal cliff.
I'm going to let you say it. I'll show. We're relatively flat here today. Dow's the only one in green, just by a few points there.
Do we have a deal? Do we not have a deal? We've got about 3 weeks to go, and I think the markets are reflecting that uncertainty.
Okay. Switching now and talking to Pandora Internet Radio, because their earnings are out after the bell. I'm a fan. I listen to Pandora, I have to say. 150 million registered users, so I'm not alone. A lot of folks out up there. They're up right now 2%. But obviously investors are going to be looking at not only how much time is spent listening to Pandora, mobile apps, another big question, and just in terms of the business model going forward, can they sustain themselves?
With online content providers, Pandora is not alone. Netflix faces the same problem. How do you basically buy the content at rates that you can make profit on? And so right now you have musicians out there that are basically wanting more, and Pandora is having to grapple with, okay, what type of royalties do we pay them? Because Pandora is mostly free right now. There is sort of an upgrade option, but most of those 150 million are free users.
They're lobbying for something called the Internet Fairness Radio Act, which they're saying as the web, they're sort of unfairly discriminated against in terms of the royalties that they have to pay. I think the CEO said they pay more than 50% of their revenue out in royalties, which is much higher than, say, satellite or cable would have to pay. Artists, on the other hand, Billy Joel, Rihanna, and some of the others took out a full-page letter in Billboard saying, our royalties are going to be cut 85% if this goes through.
You definitely don't want to anger, shall we say, the content producers. If we could use, if you're a Rihanna or a Nelly or one of these other big performers, you make most of your money already from performing and live shows. You don't make as much from record sales or whatever. So they're going to try to protect as much of their revenue pie as they can. Pandora's got to come up against that and face that. Also, Apple might get into the game as well with its own online streaming service. It's a rumor. It's been around for a while, so that would definitely affect Pandora.
Clear Channel, iHeartRadio's out there.
Yes.
Spotify's out there.
Yep.
But in terms of the content, I mean, this battle goes way back to Napster.
Who could forget Napster?
The old days of the internet, I know. All right, let's move on to the hot spot. And as we do, remember, folks, the snaps at the bottom of the screen have more headlines of the day. Darden, you'd think that in this economy, Darden, which is kind of a low to mid-level restaurant chain, they're giving out promotions, but even those are not really helping consumers out there.
Yes, Darden owns Olive Garden, Red Lobster, and Longhorn Steakhouse, and the CEO said today that some of those promotions did not resonate with financially stretched customers.
Right.
And as you say, most of these customers are sort of, middle income, lower income. You take the kids out on a Friday night.
Yeah.
If they're not even being able to afford that now, what does that say about the broader economy? You can sort of look through that lens there right now. Darden is cutting its forecast and basically saying that things are not going to be all that rosy for 2013.
Earnings per share predicted, they're saying 25 to 26 cents. The estimate, 47 cents.
I mean, there's a huge gap there.
Huge gap, and the stock's down 9.5% today. All right, let's move on to an interesting story about transport stocks and trading between Mexico. A lot of automakers have factories there between chemicals, goods in containers, auto. A lot of traffic going back and forth between the U.S. and Mexico, and this could help a certain railroad and trucking stocks, right?
Yeah, Kansas City Southern, Union Pacific, they've been increasing the past few months and past few years the amount of daily trains that they run between the United States and Mexico. Ford, huge auto builder in Mexico. It's one of the big companies there that is shipping more cars into the United States as well. And, you contrast Mexico and China, you got, geography is the biggest boost right now. You don't have a huge ocean between them.
That's right.
As well. There's perhaps less regulatory concern in Mexico than in the United States. So a lot of these companies are located in Mexico, taking advantage of NAFTA to then ship their goods across the border into U.S. markets.
Raw materials, wages, a lot of benefits in Mexico.
Yep.
In fact, the government actually says that truck and train transportation, 35% increase in the past 5 years in terms of shipping goods back and forth. So, I mean, in terms of watching those stocks going forward, as you said, Kansas City Southern, Union Pacific, really ones to keep an eye on year to year moving ahead.
Yes, keep them on your watch list.
All right. Thanks so much, Ernie Scheider. Remember, folks, more headlines at our Twitter feed at Reuters Insider, and check out the great videos on our YouTube channel, Reuters.com/Reuters TV. I'm Lisa Bernhard. This is Reuters.